What's up?
What's going
Greetings.
on?
Girl,
We having
it's
technical
been a day.
difficulties. It is.
It's
I
been a
only had
day.
a
I think,
live that ended like 5 minutes before this one, so it's life.
oh my goodness, too funny. Yeah, so welcome everyone to Sip and Chat with Sri and Charlene. And we have a special guest. Well, he alright. He okay. He okay. But as you can see, we're about to ask that amazing question about vulnerability. Is it overrated? Are we expecting too much? Are people taking it the wrong way? Are they doing too much when they want to show that they're vulnerable? And we also have our question, as always: what's in your cup? What are you doing? What's happening tonight? I know for the eastern part of the world, it is winter, and I say that for the eastern part, the upper side, because a lot of us are getting hit by snow. Midwest also. So for those who are in dire straits, please stay safe, stay warm, and for those who are traveling, do the same. And those who are in the sunny side, please send us some sun.
I'm down here where we when I say down here in Houston at least, we woke up and we were wearing multiple jackets, but by the afternoon we were in shorts and a bikini top because it was 74 degrees outside.
Why
I
are
don't
you
know how
being
to dress
crazy,
down here
Charlene?
anymore. When winter comes, we don't know how to dress because we have to think about this. We go in ready to drink hot chocolate, and then by the end of the night, we're like, why can't I take off all these layers right now?
See, because you're doing too much. That's why.
I know it
That's
really
why.
is. But I want to
So,
get into one of my favorite topics for you is how
mm-hmm.
is vulnerability used in websites? Like, how can we? I mean, it's kind of weird to talk about that. Like, why would we use vulnerability in our website? But my question is, why wouldn't you use vulnerability in your website?
Yes. And I think that's a great question, especially for small businesses. We always tend to try to hide behind a logo, especially when you're starting out. You don't want your face to be seen. If it's a side gig, if it's a hustle, you don't want to be associated with it, which is a bad thing. So, for
Mhm.
a lot of small businesses, the way that you really connect and do business and get amazing clients is when they get to know you. That's where your website plays such an amazing role in that, because now, especially for your about page, videos that you would put on your website, you get to show who you really are. You get to show your personality. You get to allow people to get to know who you are, and being vulnerable is part of that. And it's not what most people might think. It's not you opening up and pouring your heart out. It's you actually being open and able to tell people why you've started your business. Tell people who you work for. Who do you connect to? And what does that mean? That means if I connect with a lot of Black business women who are starting out their journey, then I can tell you why I start that way. Because some people might not understand. And of course, you know those questions: why only Black women? And da 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 da. No, the reason why is because I've seen in my community a lot of these same women who I can relate to because I'm a Black woman. I can see a lot of them who struggle. And that's why I started my business. They were struggling to get online. They didn't understand the purpose of a website. They couldn't even create it. They weren't technical enough. So instead of them continuing the struggle and they have these amazing businesses, that's when I stepped up and said, you know what, I'm going to focus in this area because you really need me and I'm here. So why not let you know that I'm here? So that's where the vulnerability is coming in. And that's where people tell their stories.
Beautifully said. And I just want to say hello to everybody in the audience. We have those from Beverly Hills, from Haiti, and we have Doreen. And we have Amelia. Vulnerability can be relatable and inspiring. It's very true when it
Yes.
comes to video, your content, whether you're doing a live stream or you're putting out that video for the first time where it's not edited, it is being vulnerable. You're showing who you are,
Mhm.
especially if you've gone through something like myself, losing a job. When we're trying to hide because we have a 9 to 5, I will tell you, I couldn't hide because it was God didn't want that. He wanted me to show up in front. Everybody knew I was doing lives. I was showing who I am. What's up, Juma? And I will say that after the day I got laid off, the next day I posted, people were out there because I had visibility. And, I
Mhm.
posted a video even on TikTok. I posted a video on Instagram. I mean, I was posting and I've been posting this journey, but I will say that if I had not started it from beginning, just putting myself out there, it would be hard right now. I wouldn't even be here with you guys sharing the story. So for
Mhm.
any, the lessons that we can share is don't hide, share your journey, the ups and the downs, even the times where you're like, this is really hard. Definitely share that because everybody can relate to it. And
Mhm.
one person who's very well known for being vulnerable, he is the founder and CEO of Shawn Watkins Consulting, LLC. It's a consulting and coaching business. He also is an aspiring civil rights attorney. He's also a co host to my beautiful co host, who has their shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's Real Talk with, I always put Charlene first and Carl, but I think it might be the other way around.
It's
And
really
then
by alphabet.
talk.
It's really
But I'm
it's really
just
by
gonna,
alphabet. CA and
it
CH. That's it. That's it.
I always put Charlene first. It never goes the right way. I'm always like Charlene and Carl's show, and then we have also Carl has another show with Charlison where they get in talking about their backgrounds because they were in the military and the vulnerability
Mhm.
being in the military. So, without further ado, we're gonna get into Carl's story. So, Carl, I would like to know, how did we meet? All three of us.
Oh, hey everybody! Thanks you guys for having me on. Let me put that protocol out there first. I appreciate you guys give me some shine. It is also past my bedtime, so anybody know me, I am up past what time I'll be in the bed. Okay. That being said, I got Kool Aid in my cup, so that's what I'm drinking. Green apple flavor, for those who want to know. Sure, I think we got started in Growth Academy. I do believe that's where we met, and I think we had a lot of conversations offsite. I think you were one of the few that I was able to carry those conversations off the platform. We get to know each other on a level that a lot of people just being on these shows and interacting, and maybe even just go as far as doing Zooms. They don't get that intimacy
Mhm.
with in the relationship or even talking to different ones on here, and knowing a person not for any other and build that relationship in a better stance and put it on a better stance. So I think us getting to know each other and just sharing some things together really boded well in the beginning of our relationship into this day.
Yes.
So the reason why I
Yes.
asked this question was because this is how the birth of your first show with Charlene came about. So
Yeah.
whose idea was it?
Uh,
It was
I,
Charles.
yeah, I don't, man, I'm kind of like humble on the taking credit. It's,
No, me. Don't
we
do
got,
not be humble.
no, we got it. And I want to tell everybody too, I got a third show too, Authentic Leadership. We do every
Yes.
Monday with me and Tracy Boris and Authentic Leadership 101, where we talk about just creating a authentic culture, authentic leadership characteristics. We just get into the discussion of that. But going back to the show, um, me and Charlene, we kind of like, I don't know, we kind of like kicked it. When you meet somebody, you kind of like, you just have this vibe. Like we had this vibe, but we had this kind of like older brother sister sibling kind of vibe, right? So I was like, oh,
Mhm.
it's cool because I got a sister about Charlie's age, so I'm like, yo, this is like funny to me, and I always say, well, she's like we like Martin and Pam. So if you guys don't know
Yep.
about Martin, I mean, this sound like can't nobody mess with Pam but Martin, right? So Martin can treat her bad, but anybody else treat her bad, Martin got something to say. So that's kind of
Mm.
like how our relationship go. And I got into having a website, and of course, you probably heard the stories. I've shared it quite a few times. I had a consulting and a coaching website with
Mm.
photography and beautiful pictures. So right off the bat, that kind of like got her to saying, okay, are you into photography or are you into coaching and consulting? Because your website is not saying that. And from there, it just blossomed into working with her. And then it just came out of nowhere. I was like, do anybody know about you? Like, because I'm the one that like I love highlighting people, especially if they're not. I love like talking about people and putting people not necessarily on the pedestal, but actually going into the value of people and saying that this is what they do, this is what they work. So she was like, "Nah, I'm an introvert. I don't kind of like talk and deal with nobody." I was like, "Well, how long you been doing this?" So I started giving her an interview. Like, how long you been doing this? How long you been doing websites? What do you know? And then she started talking about coding, and I had about four people look at my website. Nobody mentioned that word. Nobody said anything to me about coding. Nobody told me what they do on the back end. I thought you put the picture there and they do what it's supposed to. I'm just telling you because I didn't know. I say put the picture on there and I think that it does what it's supposed to. And she started breaking down all that background stuff. I was like, man, somebody got to find out about you. We got to know about you. And then I was like, let's do a show. That's what we do. We do a show, let you talk about what you're good at. I carry the show because I could definitely talk and you could come in and chirp in the sidebar and that kind of thing. Man, that was about 8 months ago. I've created a monster since then. She's created shows. She's been on everybody's. It's like a Frankenstein 2.0. So that's how we got together.
I agree. Thank you. Because there are times where Rob will be like, "Did you even talk last?" I was like, "No, I just let her talk. It's so good. I was drinking my drink. I was happy. We're good." And then I
Yeah.
jump on you guys live, and I'm like, "What happened to Carl? Why is Carl just sitting there?"
No, she goes in sometimes, but I like that actually. That's not. It's a joyous thing to see because I remember she wouldn't even turn her camera on. Like when
Hmm.
we was in the 21-day video challenge that we were in, like she would do every single meeting in the blackout, and like you just like I'm like, wow, we never even see like you don't even know if her hair's combed, like you don't even know if she in pajamas, like we never knew. Like she just all we heard was the voice. I kind of felt like Charlie's Angels, where they just talked to Charlie and it was just always a voice. You never saw Charlie. But I
The
say
first
no, they
time
have
I saw her face was when you did something, Carl, on the website. You had changed it, and she got on the.
yeah,
It
she got
was
on,
so
right? She must have put
bad.
me on blast, right? Yeah. She got on for that one. She's like, I got to make sure people, and she told me she was gonna do that too. I got to make sure I show myself so I can tell people what you did, so my work got done. So yeah, but it's been a good ride. It's been a good ride. It's been fun. I've learned a lot, man. I mean, in the course of just like I think it's going like 8 months now. Just working with her, like we chat day to day. Someone I can run stuff by because I have a lot of ideas. They just always in my head, and I just run stuff by her. And I think I have this master plan put together, and it's like, no, no, can't do that. No. And I'm like, but look, I added it all. She was like, no. Did you think of this, that, and that? And I'll be like, oh no, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. So I had to go and start over. But it's a good working relationship, but it's pretty good.
And I
Well,
think
that's
what works well is because you're so open to being vulnerable.
Yeah,
You take feedback, and the same thing. If you push back and you're like, "No, this is what I want to do," then we go into the conversation of why, because
yeah,
it's more than even though I know about design and development and strategy, I still need to stop and listen and be open enough to say, you know what, I need to put my expertise to the side to understand where Carl is coming from. And then you have to be open enough to tell me this is why I want to do something like this. Or, can we find a way to incorporate this part of me into the site? And that's where a lot of the relationship comes in, is when you're both vulnerable in a partnership enough to fall back and listen and then say, okay, you know what? How about we take a little bit of this and then we take a little bit of this and then we'll put them all together, and that's how it rolls. So, yes.
yeah.
because
And
of
and
your partner. Sorry.
No, I
because
was
of
gonna
the
say, and it works. I'm sorry. Okay,
oh no, you're amazing. But I wanted to ask, like, because of you guys working together, and there are things that you both, when you had, let's just say you had things you needed to work on. What are the because you have this show and working with each other, how has that translated into your own businesses?
Mm.
It actually, and that's an awesome question. It actually is translated, um, and I can't really answer for Charlene. Just some of the things I see on Top Shelf. I think working with her and how I think about things and how I present things has given her a different perspective toward things. And I think and I know on the verses of me learning from her, I've learned the contextual parts of things. Because being a creator sometimes, and she talks all the time about how she's a creator, right? But Charlene is an educated creator, and if I could use those terms, for the simple fact, she knows how to create, but she knows how to manage and strategy with what she creates. I haven't, I didn't get that because I just created. Like I've always been that way. I write a lot. I can write stuff. I wrote stuff for people. Like I'm always like it's always off the top of the shelf. I'm like most of the time if you look at my content, I don't even repurpose because new stuff comes to mind all the time, and I've been told that a lot. Man, you got a bunch of stuff. Just go and redo that. But stuff just comes so much to me freshly that I write it out. So everything to me is a creation mode. Get it out, push it out. Not all the time is this strategy. I'm really learning that how to put what where and what to push and how to push. Those are some of the things that I've really learned from Charlene and the entrepreneurial part of that. You know, where does this fit in? How is this going to be of use to you? Is it something you're just wasting your time with, constantly putting stuff out? So those are the kind of things that I've really learned that I was able to like pick in and put in my bag. Cause like I don't have any problem saying I don't know that. I don't have any problem saying, yo,
Mhm.
that works well for me. Can I use that? I just don't. I never had that way. And I've always seemed to be that way that I can learn and I can soak up and I can sponge it and I can apply it at later points in time. She showed me stuff like a few months ago that I'm seeing like, okay, now I see where this fit in at. You know, I didn't go to her and
Mhm.
say, why are you telling me that? I don't need to know that because I'm not. I just took it in and put it in my pocket. Now we further up the road and I was like, oh, I remember she said that last in August. So this is where it fits in at. And that is what has really grown me in our relationship.
Yeah, and I would say that for me, it's been more of being able to speak more, especially being on camera, because y'all know I was not trying to be on camera like that, but it's allowed me to be able to be more vocal. So when I now have my clients, I can be vocal. I don't have to always be in the background listening, just listening, but now when I'm speaking with them, it's more of a clarity. It's like it's almost like practicing. And when you get to do that, you get to learn how to say things in a shorter amount of time, be more concise, and really make sure that you're bringing your thought across clearly. Because a lot of times we tend to be in meetings and we tend to speak to others, assuming that they understand what we're saying, but we're not picking up the cues. We're not asking the right questions. And definitely working with Carl, I've learned like, okay, questions. You need to make sure that you're focusing on the right questions and learning how to piggyback off of a response. And that's how you don't ignore that response and go to the next question. Go back on that response. Let them dive a little deeper. So that's been very valuable for me. And I just wanted to say hi to everybody who's jumping in. I saw David, Wilson, Martin. I wanted to say hi to you guys,
What,
Shannon. What's
Martin?
up?
Yeah, me and Martin got it. We got to hook up, Martin. So I know they closed in Philly back down, man, but we got to get together, my brother.
And I want to say, David, thank you so much for saying great show. And we have a few comments how Shannon says she learned so much from Charlene and Carl.
Thank you,
And
Shan.
Cherie had said that she usually doesn't connect with people who do not have their picture on social media. I advise new
Mhm.
clients to always do so because people do business with who they trust. I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes,
Especially, I
yes.
mean, it just is right here. Just space forward, smile, and show that beautiful smile and just be here.
Mhm.
So now I want to get into Carl because it was through
Uh,
Carl and the live we did on Instagram that Man, did my DMs blow up because of you, Carl. And
That was my first live on Instagram too. I must say, like I was like a nervous dude. Like I really was. Like I just the platform really wasn't that really like I was like, oh wow, I'm doing something I haven't done before, and it was amazing. I was exhilarating at the same time.
you did amazing. Like everybody loved you. They didn't even care I was there. They were just like, it's the Carl show. Who's this girl?
Mhm.
But I want to get into vulnerability. And you talked about on the live, your first experience of getting in front of vulnerability was when you were at 19, I believe, and you were in the army and you were sitting down and you were about to take your life. Kind of like tell us what happened in that moment.
Yeah, that's it was 1986, and that was kind of like my I guess I could say spiritual awakening, birth kind of thing. Just make a long story short, just go through the details. I've told it before, and I'm vulnerable enough to tell it because I stand in my truth. I was abused as a child. That abuse turned into alcoholism because I couldn't talk about what had taken place in my life for so many years, and trying to run away from it instead of getting out of high school, going to college, doing those things that most high school graduates think of doing. I joined the military to run away. And growing up as a kid in Chicago with the streets, the gangs, and the drugs, and all of that, I was put a stamp was put on my life at 25. I had everybody, all the older people from the neighborhood, all like, you're not gonna live to see 25. We're gonna be coming to your funeral. I mean, this was kind of like ordained, if you will, on my life. And I said, okay, I'm jet then. I just go to the military. But I took those same hurts, those same pains, all of those same things to the military with me. And there, as a 19-year-old in
Mm.
a duty station of Germany, had never been out of Chicago except for going down south to visit my grandparents. It was a lot, and it was overwhelming. And to harbor all of that pain, to harbor all of that hurt, alcohol was the only outlet, or at least that's what I thought. And I just drank all the time. Like I started putting drink in my coffee, started drinking through lunchtime, I started drinking in the evening. Now you can imagine how dangerous that is for a soldier, an armor soldier, for first and foremost, because I'm walking around with a 45 on my arms, right? And I'm in a battle ready unit. So how much of a soldier was I really? And we went on some training exercises. And at that night, I kind of like planned what I was gonna do. Just like planned my suicide. I was gonna do it out here. We was doing training exercises. I always thought the army was this kind of thing that would kind of like say, okay, this happened out there. You know what I mean? Kind of not necessarily cover it up, but to make sure I got the benefits and insurance and my family was taken care of. And I had it all planned out. And I sat on the tank that day and I kind of like took all the bullets out the gun except for one. And I spent it, chambered it in there. And I just sat on the tank and I pulled the trigger. I pulled the trigger 3 times total. And the gun didn't go off. And I was an upset dude. I was really angry. I got so mad that I said I couldn't even kill myself right. And I started crying there on the tank. And as I was crying, the moon got about as bright as the sun. And I like to tell people all the time, it wasn't one of those Moses parting the Red Sea, Ten Commandments kind of moment where it just, somebody was speaking from heaven and loud thunder and all of that. It wasn't that. It was a real bright moon, like the sun. And at that point in time, something happened. I can't explain what it was. I don't know what it was. But from that point in time, I was changed. And that was my first inkling into going inside of me to heal me. And that was the work, is that the journey that I've been on 30 years now. This journey of letting people understand that vulnerability is a life changer. You digging down into your depths and understanding who you are and embracing who you are as a person. It's nothing like it in the world. So,
That's that's deep. And we have, Shannon saying that was God saving you. I agree too.
yeah,
God saying, hey,
Mhm.
you had to go through this experience. This happened for you because now we're going to have you help others. And Robert wanted to know, how did you overcome the alcohol addiction? What's up, Russ?
Rob, I tell you that I know it was God, right? Because I met alcoholics and I work with alcoholics, and I know about the addiction. I know about the drag. I've seen drug addicts. I've seen how it's really destroyed people's lives, even from the neighborhood as a kid. I've seen that. I didn't go to any AA. I didn't do any 12 steps. I didn't do any programs. That night on the tank, when I came back after training, we had another week out there in training, Wild Flick in Germany. And you soldiers out there know it's cold. We had another week of training out there. When I got back in from training, the very smell of someone drinking alcohol made me sick to the stomach. So I
Hmm.
never picked up another drink again. Never did. I wasn't a smoker anyway, but I never picked up another drink again. And it was, I could say no cold turkey because I didn't have in my mind to stop. I just did.
Mm.
And when the guys would come in from their clubs in the barracks, I could smell them from the hallway. And that's how sensitive my nose and my stomach and my pit had got to drinking alcohol. And I just couldn't stand the smell. It would make me sick to the stomach. And I would know
Mhm.
people off the bat. I would know your actions. I could tell when you was drinking. I could tell how much drunk you were, how intoxicated you were. I could tell when you started to slur. I had picked up all of those kind of things because I had done them my whole life. So they were like flashlights to me then. So that's how I did it, man. With the grace of God, I still don't know why I didn't. Because people talk about me today. Man, I can't believe you
Mm.
ain't do no 12 steps or no nothing. I don't know nothing about no amends. Just from what I heard other people say, I didn't do any steps. I mean, I didn't go back. I didn't relapse. Nothing. Just took the taste away.
It was your
Mm.
moment, and that's what, God knew the better the what was best and how
Yeah,
you can help others.
I was about to
And
kill myself. Really, literally, tried to,
Mm.
but I mean, I think about it, kept drinking it. It ended that way. And I'm healthy. Like I ain't got any lasting things, and I drank for over 20 years like that. I don't have any liver problems. I don't have any. I didn't have any cirrhosis. I didn't get no diabetes. I didn't get none of those kind of things that alcohol normally does to the body. I don't have any of those.
hmm,
And
that's
that helped allowed you to be the person, the guiding light for others, so you can be
Yeah.
the example of what vulnerability looks like. And Rob dropped another amazing question. Why do you feel that it's important to tell your story?
If you know me, you haven't heard that story a lot, and there's a reason behind it. Um, I tell that story, and I always talk about vulnerability strategically and intentionally. And what we have a misconception or misunderstanding about vulnerability is that we have married it into oversharing. And this is where the people get the concept of I got to tell all my dirty laundry for me to be vulnerable. That's a misconception. It's a myth, and it's also why I'm so adamant about changing the narrative of what the dictionary says vulnerable really is. Of course, we take it to that, and we've known that, and people say it all our lives. You're exposing yourself to harm and danger when you're being vulnerable, right? Absolutely. But dictionaries are not applications. They're for you to understand what a word means. But by me being a dictionary guy from my youth, I've turned the dictionary meaning to application. So I take the word vulnerable and I apply it to my life. I don't let it define my life. And this is where we get the misconception of. So now I feel it's important for people to understand that in you there is more than you see. And you can only see that by being vulnerable because someone has to pull it out of you. Someone has to show it to you. And if you're not being vulnerable, you're closing the doors to someone that can make your life a whole lot better than it is. And it could be something as simple as me now. I can tell people, oh, you can stop drinking without taking 12 steps. Now, how can I tell them how? No, but I can show them an example of how it happened. And that's why it's important to tell your story. No one knows what you've been through. And if you don't share it, no one knows that they can overcome it. So it's very important for you to share your story, but you have to share it strategically and intentionally, and you can't marry it with oversharing.
I
Yeah, and
agree.
I'm glad you said that because you also have people who know that being vulnerable allows people to say, "Oh, I get you, I understand you," and there's so much fallout because I now want to talk about the frauds, right?
Oh
So,
yes, let's
I'm
get on them.
I got to be the advocate. I got to be the one to push that out. When you have those who take lies or stories that are not theirs, or they might over exaggerate what they've been through, just so they can be seen as vulnerable, so they can do business with people, but they're really not. That's not who they are, and it shows through after a while, because then that's when you hear the stories of people finding out that the story is a lie, or that they feel betrayed. So now it gets harder for those who really do want to share their stories to be seen and taken seriously. What do you say to that whole concept of taking stories or fraud, or faking these stories? How do you help the others who to really connect, kind of get through that hurt of being lied to, or being in that pool of liars? How can we stay on course and stay vulnerable?
Um, being vulnerable is a choice. Being vulnerable is the truth, and that is the difference. You'll find those that try to market vulnerability as that, and anyone that's followed me over the 2+ years that I've been strenuously on this, you could go back in some of the history of my posts and see what I post, all the way to my origins when I did the daily word every day, where I picked a word from the dictionary, told you what it meant, and then I gave you my spiritual connotation of what that word meant to me in application. I've been talking about vulnerability, and a lot of people on this platform don't know that because they haven't worked with me. I've been talking about vulnerability even in my corporate life and in my corporate endeavors. I've had losses for speaking about being vulnerable. I've had jobs removed from me
Hmm.
because I was so vulnerable. So I've taken some hits, but I always felt that it was so important to, because such as King, and I'm not putting myself in this category, by no means, but he took it upon himself to say nonviolence was going to be the way that he got his message across. And I took it a long time ago from that tank in 1986 to where I am now. That talking about vulnerability was going to be the way that I got my message across. And I stayed firm to that. A lot of times you hear people, they'll have a story and they'll tell a story. And that's why I use the term market, because I want to be real specific in that. People market vulnerability to exploit vulnerability. And that is why the narrative of vulnerability is so negative, because of the connotation that people use in order to take and deceive people. But when you're vulnerable and it's true, true vulnerability opens up opportunities. True vulnerabilities give you the permission every time to be able to be exposed, and you know what to expect. Now, when someone comes at me, it's not about skeleton in the closet. It's about what have I overcome that I can help you with. Because it's everybody got skeletons. Okay, everybody got skeletons. Turn around, open your closet. Something's gonna fall out of there. There's something in there that you're not proud of. There's somewhere in life that you did something that you was ashamed of. Somewhere in there, but it's how you embrace it, how you change your life from it, and what are you doing now that can show others that you're real about what you're doing. And I think if we do the vulnerability in that essence, those that market it, you'll be found out. I found out a lot of people here that said that they thought the same way I did, but they thought top shelf. They thought in the essence of, yeah, I can say a few buzzwords, and me and Carl on the same page. But Carl had done his homework. So when Carl went deeper and you found out you didn't want to be at that party, then you was looking for the exit. That's how people that's marketing vulnerability see where it comes out at. And the truth is always going to rise to the top like cream.
Yeah, because I would say 2021 was, it was almost like a buzz
Yeah,
phrase. Everybody
it
was
was a
trying
key
to
phrase.
put it in there. Yeah, like how you see on social media when everybody's trying to jump that wave, and vulnerability was one of those waves that folks wanted to get on, but they didn't. Like you said, they didn't last long, because you've done your homework. You've been doing this for years, talking about this, so all those bandwagon jumpers
Absolutely.
did not stay the course. So yeah, definitely want to make sure that the people you really deal with do your homework as well, and really start to get into, are they really about this life?
Because if you're not about it, there will be a change. All you
Hmm.
got to do is give it time. Time will tell on everybody. So if you're not about it and it's not nothing that you're truly in, you can only hide it for so long. And
Mhm.
the characteristics of who you are as a person will shine through. So no matter how much the facade you try to build, no matter how much the barriers you try to put up and erect, they're going to come down because they're going to be someone that's going to infiltrate your foolishness. And it's going to be someone that's going to understand you wasn't what you said you were. And
Mhm.
and in the essence of that, it goes about the pain of hurt. Who do you hurt? Who do you really hurt, right? I mean, it's things, it's choices and decisions, and things that I've made over periods of time in my life of hurting others, and to this day, there's a hole there because I'll never be able to repay or put back, whether it be the time, whether it be the items, whether it be whatever it was that I destroyed in the life of living how I lived, right? So you're always going to feel that way. But vulnerability, if you practice it every day, if there's a practice of vulnerability, if you becoming your true and whole self, it's always a strength. And it's never seen from
Right.
weakness. You know how much courage it takes to be vulnerable? Now, who would say that's
Mm.
being weak? You know how much courage it takes for somebody to say, I'm not perfect. I got flaws. I got imperfections. That take a lot of courage because everything we see on social media, even with our family and friends, everything is Johnny's living across the street. He got a 3-car garage, $400,000 house, and Johnny know it at any point in time he really can't afford none of that, and he about to jump off the bridge. But he trying to
Mm.
live his life for someone across the street, his neighbor, to see that he can drive the same kind of car as he drives. It's a sad state.
Man, so I want to ask you the question then. Do you think vulnerability is overrated?
No, it can't be because the narrative hasn't changed. People are still thinking vulnerability is a weakness. People are still putting their self in that category. So therefore, it can't be overrated. Overrated is something that you're used to, that is played out, and it's come to this point of where I'm tired of that. How can you be tired of something that you're not doing? How
Mm.
How do
can it
you
be?
help? Oh, sorry.
Mhm. No, I'm saying how can it be? Because when it's overrated, to me, it's saturated. I mean that you're talking about it so much that everybody already know about it. So why do you keep talking about it? That's to me over. It's like you talk about Michael Jordan, the greatest of all time. We've seen what he's done. So why do you keep talking about he the goat? I mean, he showed you he the goat. Okay, so it's overrated to keep talking about this guy's the goat. But vulnerability, as soon as you cut this off, and someone who have not seen this, if you go to them tomorrow and ask them to be vulnerable, I ain't being vulnerable. I'm showing this weakness. That mentality and that mindset is still there. So as long as that's still there, vulnerability cannot be overrated. Cannot.
Mm.
So how do you help somebody get over, walk them through being vulnerable, especially if it's something like in their culture, in their family, that being vulnerable is a weakness. Like, so how would you work, how do you help your clients get past that?
I'm glad you asked that question. Helping them is identified, and I put a post up a couple of days ago, and I really and I was talking to Charlene about this. I say 2021 was the avenue of Carl giving the information. All of 2021, I gave you all the information about. I didn't give you stats. I didn't give you statistics. I didn't give you research, Brene Brown. I didn't write books with inspirations. And this is no knock on her, but I didn't take it from that. I took it from life experiences and lessons learned. I took it from my own life living and not from doing research and interviewing people. And there's nothing wrong with that because she's put out some tremendous stuff, and she'll always be a idol of mine. But when I look at how it is and how I work with people, first of all, we got to work through the obstacles. What causes you not to be in a relationship with your vulnerability? What is there? The first and the fourth. I'll say one of the famous things. It's shame. A lot of times we won't be vulnerable because we shame we're not where we need to be.
Mm.
Or to flip it, we're not where someone else says we need to be. So if I'm vulnerable and I'm shameful of that, I'm definitely not going to tell you that that's a weakness. I'm definitely not going to confide in you that I'm not where so and so said it. And it's ingrained in us from the very beginning. If we can go back to our childhood, when we can go back to our parents and they directed our paths in different ways. As a man, you're riding a bike, you fall off, first thing out of dad mouth, boy, wipe your knee off, suck it up. Wipe, don't you start crying. All of those things right there are zapping the skills of vulnerability out of an individual, such
Mm.
as a woman. The same thing with her. You don't have to take that. Somebody's talking about you. You know what I'm saying? Suck that up, build it up. We are just taught from kids not to show our emotions. Emotions is tapped into vulnerability. So if I'm able to show my emotions, then I can be authentic. Then I can let you know when things bother me. We have a hard time communicating that. Even just look at how life is now. Look at the world. Republicans, Democrats. We got
Mm.
to be divided on everything. Why? Because nobody is in touch with their vulnerability to say, you know what, you may be right. So what I do with them, I have them identify those obstacles. Let's work on those obstacles. Why are we shameful? We can go through the whole course why are we shameful. But I got 4 tips that I like to leave. First one is introducing. And that's the first step that I take on anybody. Reintroduce yourself to your values. Reintroduce yourself or introduce yourself because some people don't remember what their values are. Introduce to your core values. What are those things that make you you? What are those things that make you comfortable when you're operating in yourself, in confidence, in high self esteem, in high morale of yourself, when you think great of yourself? What are the core values of those things that help you define who you are? The second part of that, part two, is break the bad habits. All of those things that relationships, whether it be management, supervisory, mom and dad, spousal, whatever those relationships are, and whatever they put on you, their expectations of who you should be, start breaking the habits of being that people pleaser. Start digging into the core values and they'll link up to each other and you can break those bad habits. And of course, if you got bad habits, you got to replace them with good habits. So therein lies you moving forward. You're starting to do those things that make you feel good about who you are, your value, who you are as a person, who you are, what you bring, who you are, and how you are enough. And start moving forward and doing those things that solidify you as a person. And after that, it's the breakthrough. Enjoy those wins, celebrate those achievements, pat yourself on the back for those accomplishments. And then once that breakthrough is there, there's always another level. That's why my plans is 4 steps and it's repeat and repeat. Once you've got the breakthrough for that level, there's something else in your life that you're going to have to go back to step one. You're going to have to reevaluate the core values and you have to go right back through it again. And that's why it's a life living lesson. It's nothing that I can tell you that I've researched with someone. It's something that I put into my practice. Because when I get to step four, I know I go up the stairs to the next floor. I got to start back at step one. Because on that floor, I'm going to have to redo the same thing I just done on the floor below.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
Mm.
Those 4 steps. Introduce yourself to your core values, break your bad habits, have your breakthrough, and then rinse, basically rinse and repeat.
Yes, I call it. Well, my mom used to say, "Pete and repeat." That's what she said. If she had to tell you something more than once, that would be her thing. You know, she was hot at that point. She said, "Boy, don't make me Pete and repeat." Because in other words, she's telling me, you heard what I said. Don't make me say it again. And my mom was a little lady with a hand fist. She was 4 feet 11, but I was scared of her all the time. All the time. She was a
Yes.
little lady, but I was scared of her all the time.
I think that's how
Sounds like
Shadow
my
is,
mom.
Charlene.
Sounds like my mom and Shadow. Yeah. They small,
Yeah,
but mighty.
yeah, yeah. They might, they might, they might.
But I wanted to before we let you go, Shadow is eating shrimp in my room. He living a good life.
Oh, king life, man. King life,
He
man.
living a good life.
Are they
Homie.
pink? I mean, what flavor are these shrimp?
Yo,
I don't know. It's
it don't
shrimp. It's
matter.
shrimp and I know we going to sidetrack, but it's shrimp and tuna and child. He just like he sniffed like he does. He sniffed and he was like, okay, let me. And it's
Yeah,
real
yeah.
shrimp. It's baby shrimp in there. So I don't
Oh,
know what they
shadow,
giving these
shadow,
animals. They
shadow. You eat
packaging these
large.
things well.
Well, you know they
What
stuff is
I
in the
might
they stuff is in the refrigerator section now. You know, so it ain't no telling. You know,
exactly.
they getting the real food now. Ain't no more that dry food stuff.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
it's
me
it's
too,
the it's
Rob.
the it's the natural food. It's the natural food. So me and Shadow might have to battle every now and then for shrimp. I'm just gonna put it
Oh,
out there. But I wanted to I definitely wanted to before we let you go, because a question by Rob was dropped. How do you or what's the suggestion you would give someone so they can move past the shame and really use their vulnerable side, their story, to empower not only themselves but others who hear it?
You move past the shame by embracing it. It's what you did, and it's what happened, but it's not who you are.
Mm,
Hopefully, now some people carry shame and they continue in that shame, and that shame being they continue in the actions that produce that shame. But for most people, the shame is that they've done something they're really embarrassed by it, and it's actually taking over their life because they're hiding it. Now, I don't give you that to say go tell all your business, because this is where I really want to get this clear. It's not a part about it. You robbed a bank, you killed somebody, and somebody need to know you spent 10 years in jail. Okay, look at that story. Is that something that you need to tell everybody that you run across? That's why I go back to strategically and intentionally. The purpose of being vulnerable is not to shed all the baggage. The purpose of being vulnerable is to be an enlightenment for someone who's going through something that you overcame. That is the real purpose of being vulnerable. So I tell you a story that I overcame, thinking that you would grab that and have confidence in what you're in. So that is the purpose of it. So when you've done something that is shameful to you, embrace that shame. Get over that shame. Give yourself some grace, and don't let others use that as a rule over you. Because a lot of times when people know stuff, because I tell somebody off the bat, yo, I ain't do that. Now what? What power you have now? I already said it. Already told it.
mhm.
And they already know it. So now
Yes.
you'll be surprised how much power you'll gain if you take that shame and you use it as your tool, and stop letting other people use it as theirs to have you do things that they think you should be doing.
Yes, because to I guess amplify what you're saying, if
Mhm.
anybody has not watched the film 8 Mile, watch that film because the
Absolutely.
ending. I'm sorry, it's a spoilers. I don't need to say
Man,
spoiler.
it's
It's been
about
like
20
40
years
years.
old anyway, ain't
The movie been out. The movie been out 40 years. Like Eminem's like 80, so we're good. So, but in 8 Mile, that's what he was living. He was living his life. It was for him, it was shameful because he was on the wrong side. He was in the trailer parks, all this kind of stuff, right? So as he did his battle rap at night, he was getting like embarrassed because people putting it. That's the whole thing of battle rap. We find the worst thing about you, we talk about it, and we try to amplify that up. And you have to run out of things to say about the other person. So when he came to his pivotal scene, he pretty much, it felt like he froze up. But what he decided to do was, you know what? Let me just put it all out on the street. So instead of allowing his opponent to talk about him, he talked about himself. So he put all his business in the street. He said how his girl was taken by his best friend, how he got beat up and he got jumped. His best friend shot himself, like all these kind of things, but shot himself in a funny way because the guy shot himself in the foot. But I mean, he survived. But so he put like everything out. And then he said, now that I said everything, tell them something that I haven't told them. Tell the world something that I haven't said. And then he literally sat down and then waited for his opponent to start. And his opponent was like nothing to say. He didn't have anything else. So when he realized that the opponent didn't even have a comeback, couldn't do anything, by default he won. And it was like, wow. So it's a lot of what you're saying. Like, don't allow someone else to hold your shame over your head. Embrace it, acknowledge it, and make the choice to go beyond that. Don't sit there and continue to do the same thing. And then what? Because then the world will always have something against you, have something over you. Definitely.
and that is probably I would advise everybody to watch that as a teaching tool, not so much for what the movie was in totality, but that point in time in the movie, because the power in that was the two lessons he learned at that particular moment. That moment, he embraced his vulnerability. And the
Mhm.
second part of that, what he learned, the lesson he learned, he took his own power. Those two work hand in hand. When you become vulnerable and self-confident in who you are, regardless of the flaws, you become powerful. That's where they get the term vulnerability is your superpower. Because at that point in time, you actually wake up you to realize who you are. And that's what he did. Regardless of whatever my situation may look like, this is who I am. Why not be powerful in that? Why not embrace that? Because it's power in being who you are. I want to deal with who you are. I don't want to deal with who you want to be. I don't want to deal with who you're trying to be. I want to deal with who you are. And when you
Mhm.
are, you like who you are, you step into your power. And that's what was so amazing about that scene. He sat back and he really realized that at that point in time, he became powerful. That just imagine if your
Yes.
life could take that turn.
Mm.
Mhm.
All the stuff you've been putting on the back burner just for the simple fact that you thought nobody else thought you were enough. And you letting all
Mhm.
of these other people hold in the power of your life because they said something to you. Maybe as a child. I know when I told people I wanted to be an attorney, when they told us to come to school and dress up as what you want to be. You know, everybody had those career days. I dressed up in a suit and I came to school. And my teacher's like, "Well, what do you want?" I said, "I want to be a lawyer." She's like, "You want to be a lawyer?" She was like, "People like y'all don't be lawyers." Teacher told me that. Yes, one of the Chicago finest told me I would never be a lawyer. She was like, "That's not what y'all do." I was like,
Mm.
"Wow." Came home and told my mama that, and I said, "Because of her, I'm going to be a lawyer." I said, "Because of her, not in spite of, because I wasn't mad. It because I knew I could." And that's the
Mhm.
attitude that I took at it.
Mm.
Well, I just
Love
want to say
that.
thank you,
Oh,
Carl,
thank you guys.
for
Man,
sharing your
I
story.
just feel the love. I just feel the love. I just feel the
All
love.
these gems, just we over here like I was taking notes. I mean, I was just like,
Oh,
"Ooh, let me take
no.
notes because this is this is what we do." And so I
You
want
create the
to
space
ask,
through vulnerability. You create the space through vulnerability, guys. You create the space. I'm telling people that all the time. You create the space, and if you start allowing those people to be vulnerable around you and feel safe about that, you imagine.
Mhm.
Can you imagine how enlightened your life will be? How
Yes.
easier things will be? How much you will make a difference to others?
Mhm.
Our man Khalid always tell me, you do make a difference. And when he used to tell me that, I couldn't grab it, even though I knew who I was. I couldn't grab it. So I started seeing it, and I was like, you know what? When he say, "Brother, you do make a difference," I say it right behind him, "Brother, you do make a difference," and he believed it. You guys
mm-hmm.
have
Yes.
been
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
This has been awesome. This was worth me staying up for. I'm real sleepy, but it's been worth it.
Well, I want to ask you, Charlene, because
Yes.
we've been talking about Carl, but I want to ask you, Charlene, don't you have some kind of course? And Carl gave a wonderful testimony about how you helped him. So how can we start working with you?
Oh, definitely. Well, I have one of two courses. I'll talk about both briefly, and they kind of go hand in hand with each other. One is if you need to understand website strategy, you don't know where to start, you're not sure how to build it out. I have launchreadyintensive.com. That's where we would walk you through, and that's me and my friend Michelle Barzalo. We walk you through creating not just a strategy for the website, but a strategy for how to create graphics, how to market your site, how to get the word out there. And if you're ready to take that leap and build it out, revamp what you already have, that's where me and Rob come in with the website rehab. And we actually will help you understand what copy to write and the layout, how to improve that. Because a lot of times it's really that simple, just to improve the copy, tweak the layout, and you'll see such an amazing difference on your site. And that's a lot of what Carl and I did. We went through the strategy and then we did the actual revamp to so he can see how different it would feel. And especially when you can speak clearly to who visits your site, it's a game changer. It's a super, super game changer. So those two, the launch ready intensive.com and the website rehab.com, Go to those two sites where you know that you need that help, and I am happy to come through. And if you're not sure, you just want a strategy with me, you can go to rescue strugglesiterescue.com, and we got you. That's a 1 hour chat with me, and we're going to go through what you have, understand more what you need, and get you started.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah, awesome
Awesome
sauce.
And what
sauce.
about
Like
you, Shri? Because I know for those who are struggling doing these lives like I was.
Well, hey, if you want to get ready to share your story, share your journey, but when you're about to hit the record button, you get frozen or you're a little intimidated because, hey, you're either one of those who is all about perfection or you're just uneasy, like you're not comfortable showing your face. I would love to be able to help you. I am taking clients for one-on-one and group coaching because my 21-day video challenge has already started. So I would love to work with you and walk you through how to get from being uncomfortable all the way to doing a live show series like how Charlene and I and even Carl are doing. Plus, if you're also interested in getting comfortable doing TikTok, I also have been dabbling and helping a few clients to get to be on TikTok. You don't have to be dancing. You can actually just show up and be yourself. So if this is what you're interested in, make sure you message me. And also, I still have a makeup course that is coming out because a lot of people ask, how do I do this? I do have the course that will show you step by step, just because I know what's out there on YouTube and it is really difficult if you want to learn how to do the contour or just do the eyeshadow, or just do even this lovely eyeliner. I definitely have all of that in my course. So I want to ask you, Charlene,
Yes.
I'm excited because next week we have a little break before we go back to lives on February 1st. So what
Yeah.
should we be expecting next week?
Next week? I don't know. I might take a nap next week.
Ah, well, what I wanted to bring is that for all of you who are doing live shows and who are continuously out there showing up for your community, it's okay to take a break and it's okay to say, hey, next week we're not going to be here because we're going to take time to reset, look at what's working, what's not, and then come back with more. So if there's anything that you want to see on the show, or if you would like to be a guest, we would love to bring you on. You can message myself or Charlene, and we'll make sure to book you on to the next time that we go live. So I just want to say thank you again to all of the viewers, and thank you to Carl. And I want to say thank you to my wonderful co host, Charlene, for being here tonight and sharing your
Yes.
story.
Yes,
thank you guys
thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. And I definitely wanted to give Carl 1 second to promote
One
because I
second.
know you.
Oh man, I'm
1 second.
sorry.
I know how that's gonna work with you.
Yeah. I have so much stuff.
But
I
I
have
I
so much
do
stuff.
know that you have something amazing going on right now to help people with their vulnerability.
Yes, I do. I have. You guys go to the website, the strategically and lovely website that was produced by the co-host of this show, Charlene Brown. Definitely go check her out. But carlshawwatkins.com/VTP. That's V is in Victor, T is in Tom, P is in Paul. The vulnerability transformation program. It is a 4 week intensive. Classes start. We've already in the January classes. The February classes start on February 7th. The first Monday in February, we do 4 weeks, and we go through those 4 steps. Those steps that I just told you about. We go through those 4 steps, and we get to the end of that, and we get that breakthrough. At the end of the month, I got some phenomenal people that are working on it right now, and it is bringing me some joy. I tell you, not only that, I've started a membership that I'm doing, Authentic Leadership Mastermind, every Monday in Your Business Peeps. .com. I did not put the link in here, but I will be putting it in there where you can join. It's a membership where we just talk about authentic leadership, and we have people that bring executives and leaders that bring their issues, their struggles, those kind of things. And we created this safe space where it's a Zoom. where we get to talk, we get to share, we get to hear perspectives, and we get to tackle problems together. And these are people from all walks of life, all genres, all industries. So it's not just particular ones. And you get to hear how people think about something that you're struggling with, a totally different industry. Man, it's a powerful thing to hear what people have to say. So those are just two of the great things that I have that I want to share with you guys. And school's back in next week, guys, starting 2L. Whew, it's rough out here in these school streets when you're an old person, I'm telling you.
Thank you again, Carl, and thank you everybody for showing up. Until our next live, have a wonderful evening.
You as well.
Bye.
Thank you guys for having me.